What is happening, my YT Gizang? Y'all already know what time it is, man. This is your boy Rio, and there's so much to talk about. So much I want you out of here, man. So we gonna go ahead and get straight to it. But before we get to the topic at hand, I want to pick y'all brain real quick, man. Y'all just let me know how y'all feel. This is all opinions, okay? Let me know how y'all feel about this. Now, we all know the situation that's going on because the conversation is still going on right now about Shedeur Sanders and this ticket situation. We all know that, in which it was a whole lot of positive things that people had to say about it and a whole lot of negative things, you know. My question, and y'all just let me know how y'all feel. My question for this is, where do the Cleveland Browns stand in this situation? Because they have yet to speak on it at all. And for me, I feel like they might want to go ahead and have a press conference, whether it's the coaches or Shedeur Sanders himself. Go ahead and have that press conference before you get to training camp, because the last thing you want is for this to carry over to that situation. When it comes to that training camp, your main focus should just be on these QBs and figuring out who's going to be that number one guy, not trying to answer all these questions about this situation, you know. And it's getting worse, and that's why I say it's important for them to have the press conference, because now you got people comparing Shedeur Sanders to Baker Mayfield. Now, we all know how Baker Mayfield was when he came into the league, okay? He was a trouble child, problem child. But when it comes to Baker Mayfield, and, you know, maybe it's just me, I didn't see that organization. I did not see the Cleveland Browns organization trying to guide him or mentor him at all. Now, the Cleveland Browns fans, y'all let me know, because I was on the outside looking in. You know, y'all was in the mud. So y'all would know more than me in this situation. But from the outside looking in, it just did not look like the Cleveland Browns was trying to help Baker Mayfield at all, in which they end up getting rid of him. But when you look at him now, he's a very good quarterback. So if, and this is a strong if, because I don't believe it at all, but if Shedeur Sanders is leading down that path, it's best to just go ahead and mentor him and guide him now, because you have a potential quarterback that could be your number one guy in the future. And the last thing you want to do is trade him off and then somebody mentor him up and he become one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. And to me, if they let him go and he potentially become one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, it'll just be a poor decision and a poor effort that the Cleveland Browns would have put into this guy while he was in Cleveland. So, you know, that's just my opinion. Y'all let me know how y'all feel about that. Now, to the main topic of discussion. We all know the conversation is still going on also about who's going to be that number one guy up there in Cleveland. But now the conversation is starting to change a little bit. A lot of people, or a couple of people, I ain't going to say a lot, a couple of people are starting to think that the two rookie quarterbacks should be the main topic of discussion when it comes to being the QB1 for week one. Now, if you guys did not watch my previous video, there's this guy named Daniel Jeremiah. He's an NFL Network analyst. He spoke on why it's so important for one of the two rookie quarterbacks to be that starting quarterback by week one. Because we all know what's going on up there in Cleveland. They need a number one quarterback, okay? They've been struggling with this for years. They cannot find that guy, and they need that guy. So because of the fact that they have those two first-round draft picks next year, they got to find that guy. Now, the only issue with that when it comes to me is that when you look at their schedule for them first 6 games, it is treacherous. I mean, I don't even know how they're going to make it out of there winning at least one game. But at the end of the day, they got to get out there. It's only two things that can happen. Either they go out there, they look terrible, or they go out there, they lose games, yeah, but at the end of the day, they learn the speed of the game, and they get better and just progress. So once those once those games are over with, they might go out there and do pretty good. But it got to happen regardless. You got to put them out there. That's the only way you're going to know, man, before you go out there and waste a draft pick. But y'all let me know how y'all feel about that, man. Now, ESPN Cleveland was having a whole conversation about this situation earlier this morning. But they also got a clip of my boy Chris Canty and him speaking on what he thinks is about to happen up there in Cleveland with this whole QB situation. Y'all let me know what y'all think about it. Check out the footage.
I'm going to say this. I think it's going to be shades of what we got in 2012 with the Seattle Seahawks.
Which Adam referenced.
Yeah, I think it's going to be shades of that.
That's Russell Wilson, Matt Flynn today.
Yeah, they invested in Matt Flynn, gave him a nice contract, and this guy was a mid-round pick, stepped in, and he was ready for the job, and away we go. You never hear about Matt Flynn being a starter quarterback in the NFL again. I think it could be similar dynamic with Joe Flacco. Shedeur Sanders wows everybody in training camp. You never hear about Joe Flacco being a starting quarterback in the NFL again.
So once he gets the opportunity, he's not going to let it go.
Yeah, he's going to retire Joe Flacco.
Oh.
Basically putting Joe Flacco in the ground career-wise already is Chris Canty. Dale, I ask you the question. We're going to throw this question up at ESPN Cleveland on Twitter, on X right now. Do you believe the quarterback who plays the best in training camp, preseason games as well, will be the starter for the Browns week 1? Will the best quarterback play, or do you think agendas are going to come into play?
I've been saying that this has been a sham of a quarterback competition if I've ever seen one in the history of Browns franchise existence.
How so?
Look at the tea leaves. All right. Joe Flacco, I agree with Daniel Jeremiah. Joe Flacco is insurance. He is going to be the guy if, the rookies, Dylan Gabriel, Kenny Pickett's a camp arm, in my opinion. He does have to be Superman.
And he goes on to say that Kenny Pickett has to beat out everybody in order to make this roster.
Yeah, and he's probably going to get traded or, released or something, because I think Kenny Pickett's going to look decent enough to garner another job. But at the same time, I look at the Shedeur Sanders, I'm looking at the tape and I'm looking at the highlights and I'm talking to people because I roam in circles who roam in those circles. And trust me, the players take notice. They know who looks good. And they're pretty enamored with the Shedeur Sanders factor right now. They love his accuracy. They love the fact that the ball doesn't hit the ground really at all.
77% completion rate the days that we've been out there per the passing chart at ESPN Cleveland.
And don't be surprised pretty soon, because the coaches are not stupid. And one thing that they know is they know talent and they can tell. Don't be surprised if he starts getting first-team reps coming up.
Shedeur, that is.
Yeah, he's going to get some first-team reps. And Coach Stefanski keeps talking about, don't worry about, who's going here and who's going there. I really believe that once training camp starts and everything gets underway, towards the end of training camp and once the preseason games start to play out, I believe that it's going to be a Dylan Gabriel, a Shedeur Sanders quarterback competition, not a Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett quarterback competition.
Justin Cooper, you're out there for us. You and Tony Grossi are always out there whenever the media is, has their availability. How would you answer this question? Do you think that the best quarterback will start week 1, or do you think agendas are going to come into play?
Yeah, one thing from covering this team the past 2 years is it's probably the most stubborn franchise that you will ever be around in your entire life. And I think that is going to come into play here when we look at these quarterbacks. Listen, we know how Andrew Berry has felt with draft picks and keeping them around. We saw Anthony Schwartz here for how long?
Way too long.
Way too
long.
They picked Dylan Gabriel above Shedeur Sanders. Listen, guys, I said this to you guys yesterday. I am not going to be shocked if Shedeur Sanders plays the best in this training camp in preseason and still comes out as the third string quarterback. That's just, and that's not, doesn't mean that I think it's right, but I do think that agendas will take over in this certain situation, and I don't think that the players have as much pull in the Browns locker room as national media think, where they keep saying, well, if he's clearly the best, you're going to have a mutiny on your hands if you don't start him. They've started poor quarterbacks in the past when they've known they had a better quarterback on the roster, or could have had a better quarterback in free agency in Joe Flacco. They started Deshaun Watson. And I get that that's a Haslam thing. But it's also an Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski thing when you boil it down.
No, and Dale, when I look at this roster, to me, the most talented quarterback is Shedeur Sanders. He was valued as a first-round, second-round pick, whoever you want to talk to. No one thought he was a third or fourth or fifth-round pick. Nobody thought that. He did slip to the fifth, though, for whatever reasons there may be. He did slip there, but his talent alone proves that he is one of the most talented, if not the most talented quarterback on the roster. Now, Flacco has all the experience in the world, and he has the experience of the Browns quarterback playbook. They're going back to that same sort of offense that they had in 2023. So you would think that maybe he has a leg up right now. But the reason why I'm asking the question, the way I'm asking it, not in OTAs, not in, I'm talking preseason games as well as training camp, the meat of the offseason, the meat and potatoes of the offseason. If the best quarterback eventually does become Shedeur Sanders or Dylan Gabriel or Kenny Pickett, whoever it may be, you would think that that talent would rise to the top.
The way I see it, this conversation is going to continue to go on until the training camp get here, until we know who's that number one guy. And even when we know who that number one guy, if it's not the guy that we feel like is the best quarterback in the conversation is going to keep going. But y'all let me know how y'all feel about this whole situation, man. Who y'all think is that guy up there? Who should be that guy up there by week 1? Drop them comments down there below, man. I'm going to get at y'all on the next one.